Oh, thank you, Melissa. Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for changing that. Ah, the lyrics were sort of right, and there was one piece, one line in, yes, that was a little off for me after listening to the CD, and I don't sing that well anyway. So it tripped me up every time we sang that song. So Sherry and I talked last night, and she fixed it. So I'm so grateful, so grateful. So how are you? It looks like you're all here. Yes. Are you fully present? 100%? Yes. Good. Good to know. Good to know. I have been reading a lot of sort of indigenous things in the last little bit. And so I'd like you to know that you're all my tribe. You're my tribe. People would say you're my peeps, but you're my tribe. You're my tribe. The month of February, we've used the love as an acronym for the Sunday talks. We've learned love, owned love, valued love, and this week we get to enjoy love. And one of the things I was reading this week, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the first name right, Jamaica Highwater, in his book Primal Mind, has said, in tribal religions, there is no salvation apart from the continuance of the tribe itself, because the existence of the individual presupposes the existence of the community. Life does not exist without the tribe, which gives animation to its members. So that's why you're all here. I get it now. I get it. What that speaks to me is that you, as the tribe called the Center for Spiritual Living, Westlake Village, would be non-existent without one another. That we are the Center for Spiritual Living, and without each and every person in this center, our community would not exist. Just wouldn't exist. We are the ones who animate this community, and the work that we are doing here is done individually and affects the work that is done collectively. So, I'm not here to ask people to volunteer this morning. Don't get nervous. That's not what this is about. But what is good for the community is good for the individual in it. And we are really, really working this year toward having wonderful speakers come in on April 3rd. We have Greg Lavoie coming. He is from back east, and he wrote probably one of my all-time favorite books, Callings. And he is not only a delightful person to listen to, but he has some really good information that he wants to impart to you, and that's just the beginning. Community is becoming the basis of much spirituality around the world, and yet there's a gap between those people who are churched and what we would call the unchurched. Many people are experiencing incredible loneliness because they simply aren't aware that there are great communities of people who think like they do, and some people continue to feel isolated. And so, I'm kind of reminded of that commercial that was on during the Super Bowl. What, are you living under a rock? And the guy, of course, comes creeping out from under the rock. We still like that commercial, and it's not even the Super Bowl. But he comes out from under the rock, and he sees the sign that he can get 15%, pay 15% less for his car insurance, right? After he gets out from under the rock. Anyway, some of the people who are feeling isolated, you would think, they are of the same mind that we are. And yet, maybe we're not having enough conversation about our spiritual community in the outside world. We come here maybe Sunday, Wednesday, or to class during the week, but we're not talking about who we are and what it is that we do as a spiritual practice. Matthew Fox said that some of us were taught by modern science that we humans were accidents of the universe, having arrived by blind chance, and that the universe itself was cold and hard and indifferent, like a machine. Now, who would want to incarnate into such a mess as that? I don't know. Not me. And from a very early age, I thought to myself, this is really not how it's supposed to be. It's not how it's supposed to be. Then came along this 20th century mystic named Ernest Holmes, who told us that we were not accidents of nature, that there was no such thing as blind chance, and that the universe is a friendly place. So, wow, some big gap between there and there. And whatever happened in between got us to where we are today. He taught us that the possibilities of the law are infinite and that our possibilities of using that law are limitless. They're limitless. He also told us that there's some level of responsibility in our use of this law. And in order for us to receive the full benefit of it, our use must be predicated in love. Has to be predicated in love, or else we don't get to use that law in an effective way or in a conscious and intelligent way. Once again, I go back to the premise, as I do very often on Sunday morning, that I am cause to my own effect. Now, if you're here for the first time today, to have somebody tell you that you are utterly, totally, and completely responsible for your own life might be a big bite to chew off. But that's absolutely the truth, and that's the good news and the bad news all rolled into one, isn't it? You know, for some of us, it was kind of scary in the beginning when we first came to this teaching, and we were told that we were responsible for our whole entire experience of life. Oh my God, what about all those thoughts I thought all those years ago? What about the thought crimes I committed against my siblings, my boss, my parents, whoever I roasted on that fire of resentment and judgment? So, once again, it is necessary for us to truly, truly understand that what we think is what we get. Period, the end. My children are both sitting back there laughing, and I have no idea why they're laughing. You want to share the joke with the rest of us? No. It's my time. If I use the law of cause, you know what? Children are the great equalizers, aren't they? Oh my God, you know? You know, Howard Fox gave a wonderful presentation a couple of weeks ago. I have to tell this story of my son. He gave a wonderful presentation a couple of weeks ago on Wednesday night, and there were 4 or 5 women here to listen to his talk about what men need to know, I guess, and women need to know it more than men do. We should have all been there. But he said what men have about a 30-second capacity to listen to what's being said to them, especially from another woman. From a woman. Not another woman, a woman. So I'm telling my son about it when I got home, and my friend Donna Butler bought the book and gave it to me to give to Nathan. She thought maybe he needed it, I suppose. I don't know. Nathan is my son, and I said to him, I was telling my son about it. And all of a sudden he turns and he walks down the hall. And I said, Nathan, I said, wait a minute. I said, I wasn't finished talking. And he said, Mom, your 30 seconds were up. So, anyway. Yes, and you're an illusion. That's there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, it's so interesting how good it is to laugh and how you know, we learn our lessons in ways that we can understand. And I loved what Howard Fox had to say. I absolutely loved it. I understand a lot more. So if we use the law, as I'm going to digress, we use the law of cause and effect in a negative way, it will produce its own kind. It absolutely will. It just knows to produce. It doesn't know how to determine whether it's positive or negative. It just produces. The law doesn't respect the person or the situation. It simply knows to do, to act, to create. And so to enjoy love and life, we must realize that the day-to-day understanding that we have grows and grows. How we can use this law positively and effectively in our lives. We begin to know more of the truth with a capital T. And we begin to apply it in our actions. And then, as Ernest Holmes would say, we're on the right path and eventually we will be made free. Now, what we're made free of is that old way of thinking, that old belief system that we had that was no longer serving us. It's a wonderful experiment, I think, and a really great adventure to make conscious use of the law. It's a great experiment just to see how, well, is this going to work? Is this going to work? It's kind of like on the small things, priming the pump. And that's why we sometimes talk about in first year that we deal with prosperity, parking spaces, and princesses or princes. That we demonstrate the 3 Ps, as the saying goes. But as each new idea that we plant goes into that creative law, that creative medium, with love and embodiment. Those are the 2 necessary components to having realize our desire. And it outpictures in our lives in this incredible way. The sweetness of when it works, and we can see it working, is almost too much for mere words. It is. It's almost too much. Because there's that moment of excitement. It kind of takes one's breath away just a little bit. We feel incredibly liberated. And when we feel that way, we can see then how it could work in other areas of our lives. As we begin to feel the freedom, we begin to see how more freedom then comes along and takes form in our lives. Ernest tells us that God is forever doing new things by means of us. And when we conceive new ideas, it is an act of the divine projecting itself into creation. Each one of us today, simply by getting up and dressing and coming here this morning, is an act of the divine projecting itself into creation. We have created the space to be able to sit here and listen to what it is I have to say, but listening from the perspective that it's uniquely and individual for each one here. Everyone here should believe that God is specializing for us. That should be a standard operating procedure. God is specializing for us. God is individualizing for us and through us. And if my life isn't showing up in the way that I really think it's supposed to, then I have to go back to the drawing board and create a different template or a different prototype for what it is that I want to experience. The divine is projecting itself by means of each one of us. That's just simply the way it is. Are we projecting a lot or a little? Are we projecting from a place of sadness or gladness? Are we projecting from love or loneliness? If it is a little good, sadness or loneliness, these are not God-ordained traits. They're not. They are human character defects, you might say. And we have chosen to express in a manner in direct opposition to the large R reality. Many modern Christians believe in a God of form. Someone human-like, older, with a white beard sitting on a throne somewhere in a place called heaven. We all remember that God. If you grew up in any kind of a traditional religion, you would remember hearing about that God. But I lean more toward the Hindu interpretation, where Brahman is a mystery that cannot be named and ought not to be named. It is without name or form. But it is also the core of human consciousness. It is not either or, it is both and. Meister Eckhart advises us that we let go of the talk of God. He says, to quote, "Be silent and quit flapping your gums about God." The most beautiful thing which a person can say about God would be for that person to remain silent from the wisdom of an inner wealth. And here I am today trying my best, my level best, to talk about God and our enjoying our love of God at a different level. I think sometimes we have to talk about it until it's not necessary to talk about it anymore. Eckhart is right. Those people who are most connected to the expanded self, this is what Scheinfeld calls the higher self in his book, Busting Loose from the Money Game. He says those who are most connected to the expanded self are those people who don't need to talk about it. They just embody it. They're the personification of God in action. They love everybody. They do wonderful things. They are in service in a way that they don't have to tell anybody about because they don't need the ego gratification for it. They just do it because it's a nice thing to do. Eckhart writes, how should you love God? Love God as God is, a not God. Not mind, not person, not image, as God is a pure, clear one who is separate from all two-ness. There's not a God in our teaching for good and a God for evil. The whole idea of the devil or Satan is non-existent in Ernest Holmes' conversation. But he does use the word evil in the science of mind to some degree. But he says it's a way in which we determine how far we've come spiritually. If we can recognize evil, then there's a part of us that hasn't recognized or reconciled the evil feelings that we have inside us. And so when there is no one to see evil, there will be no evil in our world. That's basically what he says. Eckhart is right when he talks about this kind of God and that we won't need to talk about it. This God doesn't really need a definition because we can't define the indefinable. Because what we need to see is the evidence of what it does and how it works in our lives. Eckhart writes a whole lot about this in just about everything I ever read having to do with high mysticism. He's one of the people that is quoted liberally. Hildegard of Bingen, she's quoted liberally too, but then I found out she was kind of like a drug addict a little bit. And so some of her stuff is a little bit far-fetched for me. Meister Eckhart, Hildegard of Bingen wrote beautiful music, don't get me wrong. And, maybe some people wrote really nice stuff when they were stoned in the 60s too. But, here we are. We have to, what I like is Meister Eckhart's plainness, his plain talk about God is what I like. He says divinity is incomprehensible. Here we are trying to define God when each of us today has had our own experience of God. And I can relate to your experience of God, but you can't have my unique and individual experience of God. It can neither be defined nor designated by a name, but it is a felt response. Matthew Fox says that even the word being fails to define God. Nothingness would be an appropriate name because God is beyond all things. Nothingness. Matt, I call him Matt because I had dinner with him one night, but Matt told the story about leading a group of inner city kids in an evening discussion about urban spirituality. Now, he was in a place like South Central Los Angeles or in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. I can't remember exactly where he was. But he led all of these young people of varied ethnic origins in a simple circle dance that included a Wicca chant that says, Earth I am, fire I am, water, air, and spirit I am. I'm not going to sing it because my children are here. But they did the chant over and over and over again. And this whole group of young people where they were just simply chanting, and there's something that happens in the process of chanting. And these were all, like I said, inner city kids who were at risk. And Matt said that a really tough-looking African-American kid insisted at the end of the evening that they end with the same chant after they'd sat and had all their discussions. And he told Matt, he said, I love to sing I Am. I can't get enough of it. And I thought, well, if that's all it takes. Well, years ago, after my daughter turned 18 and she was no longer able to participate in the teen group, I was invited up to Santa Cruz to give a talk for the teens for their summer camp. And the area where the teens gathered up in Santa Cruz was a natural, what would you call it? It was a natural formation in the side of a hill where they had built, put planks, and they had built seating up this hill. And so there were probably about 150 kids there. And my daughter said to me before we got there, she said, "Mom, when you stand at the podium there, remember to look up." Well, here we were in the midst of these giant redwood trees. And when you look up, and it's kind of at dusk, the sun is going down, all these trees, there's a wonderful perspective. They come to a point. And it feels like you're surrounded by these giant, you are surrounded by the giant redwoods. And it was quite a stunning moment. And so, as I said, there were about 150 kids and adults there, and I had them begin to chant, "I am." And they started one after the other and continued doing it until all of them were finished. It was about 5 minutes before everyone was totally and completely in the moment chanting, "I am." And for me, it was one of the most pivotal moments of my life. Pivotal, because here I am, there's a bunch of kids, and they're all chanting, and it's like reverberating. It's just reverberating. It was just so incredible. And so maybe I am really is, as it says in the Bible, the only word for God. And we all need to sing this sacred name more often and in more ways. I am. So that leads me to the idea that we don't ever put "I am" in front of something we don't want to experience. So "I am angry" then becomes almost blasphemy. "I am judgmental" becomes blasphemy. "I'm a klutz" becomes blasphemy, even though it might be true. Find a different way of saying it without using the "I am." To me, this is enjoying love in a way that I can understand because it's pure. The "I am" has no history with me. It's alive, it's conscious, and it's aware in the moment of its utterance. Part of a Zulu chant that I found goes like this: "I am who I say I am. I am the value of essence. I forever evolve inwardly and outwardly in response to the challenge of my nature. I am the face of humanity. The face of humanity is my face." So I want us to say that together. So repeat after me. I am who I say I am.
I am who I say I am.
I am the value of essence.
I am the value of essence.
I forever evolve.
I forever evolve.
Inwardly and outwardly.
Inwardly and outwardly.
In response to the challenge of my nature.
In response to the challenge of my nature.
I am the face of humanity. The face of humanity is my face.
The face of humanity is my face.
Wow. If I looked at myself in the mirror every morning before I left for work and I said, "The face of humanity is my face," I might have a different perspective on life. You see, it is as I said in the beginning, life does not exist without the tribe, which gives animation to its members. You had just enjoyed love by being the tribe that gives animation to its members. Doing this together, there's something profound about something we do together and joining in consciousness. Individually, we are the souls which dwell at the heart of all things. All things. So, today, going about the business of being who you are, uniquely and wonderfully individualized, you get to know that I am the face of humanity, and the face of humanity is my face, knowing with God all things are possible. Will you join me in consciousness, please? I am the face of God. And God in me, as me, is the face that I project out into my world today. And so it is today that I know unequivocally who I am. Who I am is God expressing. God expressing in every way, through everything, with everyone. And so today I stand guard at the gate of my conversations. And I know that my conversations are truly made in heaven, because I know unequivocally today that it is God listening to God and God speaking to God. So in all things, I choose my words carefully. I choose the love essence of who I am to project out into my world. And I know from this love essence that everything falls into place in my work, in my use of money in my life, in my relationships, and in my health. Because I know that I can love my body in spite of its deficiencies or its little pains and aches. That I can love where I am, and I know that I live in a prosperous and abundant world. I can love everyone in my life, because I know that the mandate is not to like everyone necessarily, but to love that essence of God that is within. And I know that when I creatively express from the love that I am, my work takes on a whole different perspective. That I am employed, and yet I love what I do. And so in the doing of it, there is love at the core. And so for everyone today, I just simply know that it's an opportunity to step back and look at life from both sides now, and to see which side that I choose to engage in today, the dark side or the light side. I know that as I engage at the level of that lightness of being that I know I am as a spiritual person, that my life takes on a whole different form. And that it is good to be me. It is good to be alive. It is good to experience life from a place of love and a loving consciousness. And so today I know that this is what I choose to do. That I only have to do it one day at a time. I only have to do it 1 hour at a time. But 1 hour moves into 2 hours, moves into 3 hours. 1 day moves into 2 days and 3 days. And pretty soon I look back and I say to myself, wow, I'm a different person than I was last week. I'm a different person than I was last year. And this new 2011 model of who I am is somebody that I really, really like. And so this is the blessing today, to enjoy love, to enjoy being loved, and to enjoy loving. And from that perspective, we simply know that God is good, and God is generous, and God is loving as well.
I am in the darkness. I am in the light. See me if you can. Everywhere I am dwelling in the sunshine. Dwelling in the shadows,
Thank you, Sherry. And would you welcome Melissa Suzanne again? Yay.